Welcome to Salisbury Plain, the home of the southern hen harrier reintroduction.
The hen harrier is a rare bird of prey. Whilst the female is brown, the male is a beautiful grey. Over the 20th century, their population declined rapidly across England. Over the last few years, however, efforts from landowners and government bodies have seen this bird's luck change. One of these efforts has been a plan to reintroduce the birds to areas they historically resided, a plan that should have been welcomed, but instead was delayed and impeded at every turn.
There's been a plan to reintroduce hen harriers to Salisbury Plain. We're here on the plain now, in the area roughly where they're going to be releasing these birds. It's been quite a long time in getting to this point where Natural England have been able to get the birds. There's been certain objections, not by the gamekeeping fraternity, but by so-called conservationists who don't seem to want hen harriers released onto this part of the plain.
From my understanding, in most of Europe they are a lowland bird, but in England we have an association with the uplands with hen harriers, right? So they do belong here.
Across the continent in Europe, harriers are a lowland bird. They live in arable landscapes, much like we've got here, and that's one of the reasons why this area was chosen to host the hen harrier. There is a significant upland population in the UK of hen harriers, and that's probably more about grouse moor management. The way the moors are managed for grouse is perfect for hen harriers, and they like to be there. If you think about it logically, there's no disturbance from spraying, from fertilisers, from people. I mean, we've got Stonehenge behind us, and there's probably 3,000 people there right now. So in terms of the uplands versus the lowlands, the uplands probably are a much more sympathetic place for a hen harrier to live. Now that doesn't mean hen harriers aren't here and Montagu's harrier aren't here. Every year in this area we have hen harriers passing through the chute, so the gamekeepers are quite used to having those birds here.
Brood management involves the collecting of hen harriers' eggs or chicks in areas where the nesting density goes over a certain threshold. The birds are cared for until they're ready to fly before reintroducing them into areas where the hen harrier is struggling. This relieves pressure on areas where these birds thrive, whilst hopefully establishing new breeding populations.
Salisbury Plain was chosen to closely mimic some of the habitat and environments hen harriers thrive in across Europe. On a global scale, hen harriers' conservation status is actually least concern. In the UK, however, we're down to 700 breeding pairs, and a lot of that population decline is due to the lack of population in the lowlands. In fact, most of the population resides in upland Britain. That upland population of hen harriers has become a real political hot potato between conservation groups and moorland managers. It's going to be interesting to me to speak to some of the gamekeepers around here to see whether they're expecting some of that same political clash, or whether they even want the hen harriers here.
That afternoon, I drove a few miles south to meet with Tom, a local gamekeeper whose beautiful estate that will likely be a future home to one of these reintroduced hen harriers.
Tom, you're a keeper pretty close to the release site. It's not going to be long until you have hen harriers here. Are they welcome here?
Yeah, of course they are. Just like all the others. It's part and parcel of the countryside, and if it happens to be that they're released and they come here, then why shouldn't they be welcome? The main thing is more important about letting everyone know that we are a little bit more transparent and we're inviting birds onto here, and certainly we're not going to be pushing back against having them here.
Do you think they have a negative effect on what you do?
We have got a lot of birds of prey here anyway, and doesn't seem to ruin my seasons or affect my game in a detrimental way. So it's something that just is happening, and we can't stop the flow of it, and we need to encourage it.
Do you think the hen harriers will actually be successful here?
Well, as you can see, I think the farmland habitat is here. I'm really dubious about the fact that there is already a full house of territories by other resident birds of prey.
And they will attack each other, I would have thought.
They will do, but they are obviously coming in as a non-resident species, so it may be that they're going to have a harder time to get established.
But they've got a food source here, so they have a chance.
Yeah, absolutely, and we welcome that. I'm dubious of whether there'd be long-term population here, but let's find out.
Tim, what's most interesting to me is that this has taken so long. It seems like such a good thing. You said it's taken years to get to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think it started in 2016. The Countryside Alliance have done a Freedom of Information Act to see the correspondence over this project, because everyone in the shooting community is really keen that this goes ahead. We want to show that we are the genuine conservationists, which we know we are. the Freedom of Information Act has shown that it was actually the RSPV that stopped this project from happening. And I think that leads to many, many questions. Why would the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds not want there to be hen harriers?
It's odd because the RSPV have a track record in reintroductions or supporting reintroductions, be that with the bustodons, always replaying the white-tailed seagulls just south of here, all sorts of things. You know, they're totally pro the reintroduction of all the boosting of red kites back in the 90s. And yet this, something that they seemingly adore, they have fundraising weekends, they campaign for, they don't seem to want to help it out, seeing as the local community clearly want to help this animal, this bird out. Just doesn't sit right with me. And there's a number of sort of reasons that can click into my head. You know, maybe it's because they are that concerned with persecution, and that's what they say. We don't want to release the birds anywhere else until persecution has stopped. But maybe it's because it's one of their best fundraising tools.
Just as I was wrapping up this investigation, Wild Justice released a report named Meddling on the Moors, which was picked up by The Guardian. In it, they openly criticised brood management as wasteful and counterproductive, whilst providing unproven and intentionally misleading statistics on the number of hen harriers that have gone missing and the reasons why. On the government's own website, you can download updates of the tagged hen harriers and view their current status. Looking at the figures provided there, 41 hen harriers have been deemed as missing, as opposed to the 98 that Wild Justice have stated. Whilst reading the notes attached to these missing cases, they either state a fair reason for being missing, or simply that transmission was lost, and in one of the cases the death was even linked to a goshawk attack. Nowhere does it mention persecution by gamekeepers. In fact, looking at the statistics, most of the UK's hen harriers nest on grouse moors because of the quality of habitat, abundance of food, and low predation that's there. Simply put, hen harriers are present because of gamekeepers, not in spite of them. Yet this article, like many before it, put the decline of the hen harrier at the feet of the gamekeeper, despite all of my research showing that it's more likely modern land management practices that are to blame. Either way, all of this data can be accessed freely if you want to take a look at the facts for yourself and make up your own mind.